Hey folks, Scott here, Who's Your Marshal, coming to you on a Wednesday afternoon. For today's discussion, I want to talk about video games and social media and how they affect our minds, especially the minds of our youth. We spend too much time focused on our phones, video games, living in a world that is simply not reality. But for some people, it is their reality because they know nothing outside of it. And it leads to things that have been going on in our society today.
Trying to do something positive to bring this country together. And I've said it and I'll say it again because I think it needs to be echoed until they get it through their fat skulls. The mainstream media is frickin' public enemy number one right now. Just the clips you just ran of these people from the New York Times and these other nut houses they call media establishments. It's absolutely frickin' ridiculous. I mean, and then they say to, Charlie Kirk, God bless him, by the way, his wife, kids, that, he's inciting this, he's inciting that. I'm someone who understands better than anyone as being a very vocal Trump supporter from day one. They've called me a racist Nazi for years now. I mean, go look up a few facts about my life, my children, where everything. But other people start to echo this. Just people who write dumb articles who think, I'm trash and I hate my music, and they say he's just a racist Nazi. And, this starts to build and build and build. So you get these nut house kids who are doing nothing but playing video games, watching these occult movies that are all over our streaming services, that won't go outside to play any sports or anything. And, then they think they're going to do something good. I'm going to go kill a Nazi. I'm going to go kill a racist. And they're literally mentally deranged. We need to bring the frickin' nut houses back.
So do you think that our children sitting around playing video games that show them nothing but stealing, killing, robbing people, committing crimes, just blood and guts and gore everywhere, do you think that has an effect on our children? I do. How could it not? It's a world that they get immersed in, and as parents, you allow them to be immersed in it, and they think it's their reality. Yep, here's a short video about the effects of video games on children and what happens when you suddenly take their gaming away from them.
I've treated a number of children over years who struggle with problematic video game behaviors. I think one of the most important things to keep in mind is that the child will be able to tell you, I'm trying to not do this, but I can't stop. And I can't get myself to stop. I don't want to behave this way, but I'm struggling.
Why did you do that? That was my game to get into the Overwatch League. You literally just ruined it.
According to Dr. Milham, these reactions aren't necessarily because of an addiction to gaming. Instead, what we witness in these videos are children who are victims of their own biology.
Being able to tolerate the feeling of frustration or that moment of sadness when you decide, I'm not going to continue doing this, that is crucial.
One of the reasons the children in these videos find it so hard to control themselves is because they don't yet have a fully developed prefrontal cortex.
The prefrontal cortex is a key component in the brain that's involved in helping us to control impulses and urges. When you have something like the video game being turned off suddenly, the child is faced with having to feel those negative emotions.
Another factor is dopamine, which is often referred to as the brain's pleasure chemical, because it's associated with feelings of euphoria, motivation, and concentration.
Dopamine is a key component of regulating reward mechanisms in the brain. The stimulation we receive from playing a video game impacts the same pathways that are present when one is becoming intoxicated with a substance. So it's no surprise that many of the behaviors and reactions that we see for a child who's struggling with having this sudden stop brought about in their video game playing has analogs to someone who is being asked to stop usage of a substance.
We live in a culture of violence. Do you think maybe your children growing up playing violent video games has an effect on their mind?
Research shows a consistent link between playing violent video games and increased aggression in adolescence. This means that youths who often engage with these games may display higher levels of aggressive thoughts, feelings, and actions compared to their peers who do not play them. The general aggression model provides a framework for understanding how violent video games can influence youth. According to this model, these games can reinforce aggressive beliefs and expectations. Over time, repeated exposure to violent content can make individuals less sensitive to real-life violence. This can lead to a greater likelihood of aggressive responses when faced with conflict in everyday situations. Cultural factors play a significant role in how youth interpret and act on aggression. Different societies have varying norms and meanings surrounding violence, which can shape how young people respond to what they see in video games. For instance, in some cultures, aggressive behavior may be more accepted or normalized, while in others, it may be strongly discouraged. It is also essential to consider the social environment of young people. Family dynamics, peer groups, and cultural attitudes toward violence all contribute to how video games affect behavior. Studies that account for factors like gender and family background still find that violent video games uniquely contribute to aggressive behavior.
So if you think this problem is new to our society, you're fooling yourself. In this next video, you'll see that maybe the graphics that compared to modern day video games is nothing, but the concept of killing was still there in a video game that came out in the 1970s.
In 1976, video game company Exidy released a game called Death Race. To play it, you put your hands on an actual steering wheel, your foot's on a pedal, you drive around a car and murder anything in your way. You hear the screams of your victims, and their gravestones litter the screen. Soon after its release, there were calls to ban it. There was outrage, and many were worried about what it was doing to their kids. Okay, so Death Race did come out in 1976. That's 4 years before Pac-Man. Its graphics are primitive and barely recognizable. But the game resulted in what was perhaps the first widespread panic about violence in video games. And while that may seem laughable now, those concerns didn't go anywhere.
Do violent video games make for violent kids?
Officials say they are responding to complaints from parents that children have skipped school or stolen money to play the games and made a nuisance of themselves.
Outrage exploded again in 1992 with the release of games like Mortal Kombat and Night Trap.
Like I said, violence in video games. I don't care who you are and what you say about it. Video games are destroying the minds of our youth. They're making them more and more violent. They are growing up immersed in this world, and more young people don't have the ability to understand that's not reality.
Companies really taking the time to think about it or care about it unless it comes close to affecting their bottom lines.
According to many researchers, the evidence is clear. There is a connection between playing violent video games and aggression.
First, they can make us more aggressive. Second, they can make us more numb to the pain and suffering of others. And third, they can make us more afraid of becoming victims of violence ourselves.
And it's not just video games, it's other things. YouTube video, Instagram, you name it. Television is more and more violent with, it seems to me, such a lax set of standards. And it's all about money and advertising money and making sure their content is out there rather than stopping and thinking about it and saying, we need to make sure we keep the minds of our youth where it needs to be so we can live in a safe, functioning society.
One of Bushman's most recent studies looked at how playing violent games might affect what kids do if they find a gun. They used an actual handgun that had been disabled.
We had them play the video game Minecraft. We had a gun version where they could kill monsters with a gun. We had a sword version where they could kill monsters with a sword. Or we had a non-violent condition with no weapons and no monsters. We found the largest effects for the condition with the guns. Playing a violent game with swords also made children engage in more dangerous behavior around guns.
The kids who played the violent version of the game were more likely to touch the gun, pull the trigger, and point it at themselves and others.
Let's start with you, David, because some of these games are really wild. I mean, they're pretty graphic, pretty gory. You know them, Call of Duty. I don't do any of these, but
like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, they're simulated violence.
It's a criminal simulator, a murder simulator.
Yeah, Evan Ramsey, others like some of these other killers, Dylan Klebold, Eric Harris of Columbine, were steeped in these games. Adam Lanza.
The Norway killer trained on those. He said he trained on them. 69 dead on an island in Norway, and he spent a year training on video games to prepare himself for this crime. The killer in Florida, he spent 15 hours a day on violent video games. The most all-consuming, all-pervasive thing in this guy's life are these violent video games. And less than a year ago, the American Psychological Association made a definitive statement. There is a clear, unequivocal link between violent video games, violent behavior. Their blood pressure goes up, their heart rate goes up, violent actions go up. The data is persistent and clear across many different forms. You cannot deny it. It is overwhelming.
We'll move on from video games. Social media. We live in a world of instant gratification because of our cell phones and iPads, tablets, computers. Everything is instantly at our disposal. And there again, youth are growing up in this manner. They're growing up given cell phones at 10 years old or younger. They're on social media. They see these things. They become desensitized to reality because that is their reality. They are growing up not knowing any different. And many young people grow up with parents who don't make sure to teach their children different. For a lot of parents, social media and a smartphone is their babysitter. That's what's happening to our youth. Watch this next video clip. I find it fascinating. He is going to explain to you why we are so addicted to our smart devices, the internet, and social media.
Set up the dopamine, serotonin parallel.
Smartphones.
Cell phones, yes. Forgive me. So the thing about cell phones is when you first get on there and you have them, let's say no Wi-Fi on the flight or something, and you land, it can actually be quite stimulating. You get a lot of dopamine. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. But very quickly, when you're scrolling on social media, you're no longer getting the novelty, but you're continuing to do it and you almost don't know why you're doing it. At that point, it shifts over to something that's a bit more like an obsessive compulsive behavior, where we can define an obsessive compulsive behavior where the obsession leads to a compulsion. So the obsession is a thought, the compulsion is a behavior, but the acting out of the compulsion merely serves to increase the obsession. Right? This is very different than being obsessed with food or obsessed with cleanliness.
There's no payoff.
Right, exactly. There's no anxiety relief by carrying out the compulsion. With OCD behaviors, like scrolling social media, the dopamine quickly wanes, and then you find that you're just sort of, and we've all been there, you're scrolling, and like, why am I doing this? This isn't that interesting. This isn't that interesting. Now, the algorithms for social media are very clever, and I don't want to demonize it. Provide a lot of my life is spent on, on social media now, but in the algorithms that they've incorporated function on the most powerful way to keep people doing a behavior, or an animal for that matter, is intermittent random reward or random intermittent reward that you don't know when you're going to hit the jackpot. So you're scrolling, and then you see something. Typically, it's very high, what, in nerd speak, we'd say signal to noise. So if you're reading some interesting things, this came out in the news, and then it's all of a sudden a riot, or a person that is base jumping off a building, or, for people that are scrolling, looking at bodies or something like that, live bodies. Hopefully people aren't looking at dead bodies. But look, if something's very tragic, then that has this gravitational pull. And then what happens is you start getting the system working for that next dopamine hit that you don't know when it's going to come. It's just like gambling. So I look at social media as initially being very dopaminergic, driving reward, surprise, and excitement, but very quickly transitioning to something more like OCD and the kinds of behaviors where it looks, if we were to look at ourselves through the lens of an experiment like we would an animal experiment, we think that animal is sick. If you saw an animal digging in the corner, looking for a bone, the dog is looking, you'd think that's really sad. That's us.
So the internet and social media do have good to them when they're used for that purpose and not used to excess. When they're not used to the point where they become our reality, they become our world, they become our life. We don't function in much other manner other than that. We don't go out, we don't socialize with real people. We don't take our children out and get them socializing with real people. Can be used for good. And there's many examples of that, but there's many examples of how the internet, social media are used for bad. And I'm sure you can think of a few within a matter of seconds. To give you an example, if you've ever spent time around dogs, if you've trained dogs, if you want to have a well-behaved dog who does good around other people, that listens to you, is well trained, and the best dog you can be, one of the most important things you can do with that dog is socialize it with other dogs and with people. You can't leave the dog in its own little world in your house, or just in your yard, or even worse, in a kennel pent up or tied to a box in your yard, and never have it experience the things in this world, and then suddenly have your friend come over and your dog goes crazy and bites him, or just is out of control, so excited that someone is there that your dog is overstimulated and jumps up and down, jumps on the people, won't leave them alone. Because you never socialized your dog. You never took it out, you never exposed it to the world and let it see that there are other dogs out there and that it's okay for other dogs to be out there. There are other people out there besides you, or you and your family, and teach that dog how to act and interact in those situations. So you can take your dog on a walk and have it walk by people and not freak out and jump and bark and growl and everything. It's socialization. But it all starts with you. You have to take the step to make sure that dog is socialized. It works the same way with our children. When they're young, teach them that there's more to this world than the internet, or what they see on social media, or what they see on those horrible video games they're playing. Make them turn that stuff off. Make them go outside, make them play. Get them involved in sports or some extracurricular activity. Something else to stimulate their mind and to get them involved with other people in the real world. And it also will teach your children to learn that it's okay to fail. It's okay. Get back up, brush yourself off, go at it again. Or you know what? You tried that, you didn't like it, move on to something else that you try. It's okay. You're not living in this little bubble where all you know is violence and something bad happened to you, so you have to react in a horrible, negative way. You're watching a YouTube video right now. I'm creating a YouTube video right now. This isn't my entire life. I have a job. I have things that I do outside of my job. I have hobbies. I have other interests. I like to go out and socialize with people. I don't spend 24 hours of every day doing this. This is a hobby. This is something that helps me stay busy and occupy my mind, but I do other things. I get out of my house. I go out in the public. We need to get our society back to that before it's too late. And it starts with our children. Let's get them out there. Let's get them involved. Let's get them talking to people, learning social skills. So when they become young adults and go out on their own, they are prepared to handle the good and the bad that comes with it. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe. What are your thoughts? Am I way off base? Do you think I'm way off base? I don't think I'm way off base. Till my next video. This is your Who's Your Marshal saying, make sure you always take the time to tell those you love what they truly mean to you, because you never know when it just may be too late. Thanks for watching.